we were just talking here. I'm not sure exactly how all this ranks in terms of all those different things, but just for us as a staff and as a head coach, I'm super pleased with how today went. We had one last second kind of issue with the quarterback with Michigan State coming in and grabbing him. That's kind of been a last 24-hour type deal. We saw it coming and been working it for a while, but ultimately, the Big Ten, just the idea of playing in the Big Ten pulled him. With the exception of that, really, I thought our staff did a great job. Kevin Goodwin, our director of personnel, and his staff did a phenomenal job all year developing just leads and kind of identifying these guys. Our staff came along and did a phenomenal job as well. I think evaluated well, and then collectively recruiting all these guys. And we addressed some significant needs on our roster. If you look at the bodies, what they've been able to do, where they're coming from, and the JUCO ranks and the portal guys, most of these guys have the ability to come in and impact our team immediately, most of which will be here in January, which is even better, to add value to rooms and competition in rooms and create possibilities for guys to get on the field and be either significant players or even starters at their position. And for us, that was critical. I think the recruiting process started, though, maybe really a couple months ago as we started recruiting our roster to stay put. And I think if you look at this, the recruiting class on its own, it's one thing, but in combination with the fact that we've only had one player out of our entire two deep put his name in the portal and leave, that being Devin Dye to go play with his brother at Kansas. To me, I think that what really is a significant conversation is the fact that we have held on to our roster, all the guys in our two deep, and now have added very, very a good class that has a chance to come in and make us a lot better over the next 6 months or so heading into next season. With that being said, man, just what questions do you have specifically about the class?
Coach, Jason Walker with Cache Valley Daily. Just want to, obviously, the big recruiting talking point during the season was offensive, defensive line getting size. Seems like you guys have really tried to address that with some of the guys you brought in. Can you just talk about, those players you brought in on the offensive, defensive line?
Yeah, we've got to get better there, and really the only ways to do that is through recruiting and development. We're attacking the problem from both sides. I do think we made some huge additions here when you consider same length, power, speed, and twitch. We've struggled to hold point up front on the defensive line, especially inside, and Bailey and Ricky and Taz all have the ability to come in and help with what we already have. We're not done there, by the way. We still have a couple more spots to fill throughout the course of the process as we go on into February and maybe even into the summer. We struggle with pass rush, and I think we found two of the best pass rushers on the market in both Marlon and CJ. I mean, when you look at, Marlon's a four-star Georgia signee out of high school with length and twitch at Butler, and CJ, a first-team All-American kid out of California that can bend and come off the edge. We just feel like that all those guys help us up front to go with the returners. And then the offensive line, you bring Trey and George in January, both coming home to play with family, which is always super cool. Works out great for us. But everything we've heard and seen from these guys is they can make an immediate impact and really come in and fight for starting jobs. Start for, all the guys we just mentioned. They know that they're not promised anything. They have to come in and earn it, but all have the ability to come in and be in our two deep day one and impact maybe our roster as starters as well. And that makes us better. We'll get Jared Pele later. We'll get Braden Bailey later. Both those guys graduate in May, but athletically, we thought there were no brainers to sign and get here in June.
Andrew Hyde of KSL.com. It seems like in your recruiting class, there are relatively few high school players. Was there any intention behind that, or did that just kind of fall that way by coincidence?
Well, we made more offers than we took commitments. Some of it was, we battled Utah and BYU and obviously teams on the West Coast predominantly for some high school guys that we didn't get. But we also knew that we needed to make immediate impacts on the roster. And just in the day and age we're in with the portal and junior college guys being available and portal guys being available, very few high school guys are going to come in and impact your team immediately. It's going to take some time. So there's a balancing act going here. Who do we absolutely have to take that we just can't pass on? And where can we add an impact immediately? And so that's kind of where we're at. I think everybody's dealing with the same thing. When do you take a high school guy? When do you take a JC guy? When do you take a portal guy? And we're always going to start at home with Utah high school players, but there does come a kind of a line in the sand at some point as to how many of those we can take and still be, competitive next fall, which is really all we're thinking about. We're looking at one season at a time in today's climate, one season at a time. How can we be the most competitive? We feel like we got a good balance. Maybe it's a guy or two different on a yearly basis, but I think that's kind of where we're at this point.
Coach Trentwood with Deseret News. You kind of referenced this a little bit with how important the portal is now and with the pandemic. I'm curious if you've seen more talent go JUCO route and if there's more talent in the junior college route than there was maybe previously.
I don't know that there's more there. I've always felt like there was value there. I coached JUCO ball for 5 years myself and had some great players, first rounders coming out of there. I think to some degree when the portal did open, we all got a little bit tunnel vision on the portal and probably didn't put enough time and energy into the JUCO ranks. And so when we saw that after 21, when we kind of realized that, I talked to the staff about shifting our focus and taking the windows as they happen. And really the windows are high school, then junior college, then portal. We kind of missed that junior college window there at least for a year. I think there was already value there that we really didn't put time and energy into it effectively. We've taken a different approach to the last two classes. This being what I think is our best junior college class. When you look at just how heavily recruited some of these guys were and what kind of impact they can make. I don't know if it's more talent, but I think we did a better job of identifying it earlier and recruiting it longer and creating relationships that made it where we could get guys to today. And I mentioned this on the radio a minute ago. There were several of these guys that were being offered six-figure opportunities to flip from us and go to other places, and those guys held out. And I think because of our approach, the relationships that we built, I felt like we were able to hang on to some high-quality players out of the JUCO ranks that had we not been taking this approach, we'd have missed on.
Coach Anderson, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. Robert Freeman would have played with the Sloan brothers at American River. What, if any, feedback did you get from them? And what do you see from, two-time All-American, what do you see from him that made him a guy that you wanted?
He fits the mold of what we've seen with DT and Terrell. We were able to watch him play in person. The guy literally did not come off the field except for defense. He played on basically every special team and offense and was the most dynamic player in person, but also one of the most dynamic players on tape and a great dude. We absolutely loved his personality when he came in on his visit. And those guys just raved about how hard he worked, what kind of teammate he was, how much he loved ball. It made a lot of sense to us. I don't know how heavily recruited he was. He's 5'8". We're okay with that. He fits our offense with the space and splits and things that we use. We've seen a lot of success with those really dynamic, maybe smaller guys, and he fits the mold and can be just as good as the ones we've had. But we're happy to have him. Think he's going to be a great addition.
Hey, Coach Al Lewis from KBNU, your fourth recruiting class then at Utah State. How much different? You just mentioned a few minutes ago, you kind of recruit year to year now more Has that been the biggest change because of the portal and everything in the years you've been here at Utah State?
Yeah, I think so. This is just so much different. Even when I first took the job, we've talked about this before. You know, you didn't have NIL in the conversation when we first took the job. That first group that we brought in that won it in 21, there was no talk about NIL money at all. There was no, I'm going where the money is, or I need to be at a place that has NIL. It was just, I want to play. I want to have the right culture. I want to have a chance to win. When you added NIL to the space, it changed everything. And it's now so fluid and volatile, and guys are moving so quickly and changing their minds as quickly as they are with NIL being in almost every conversation. I just don't think you can take the same old approach that we always did. The ability to sign 25 high school guys and to develop them over a 5-year period, I don't think it exists anymore. Especially not for us. If we had developed a guy too quickly, somebody's going to come by him. If you develop a guy too slowly, somebody else is going to be coaching him because they're going to run me out of town. I mean, this is we've got to be competitive yearly, and we want to be. And the best way to do it is to balance using high school transfers, JUCO transfers, and portal to blend your roster on a yearly basis to be as competitive as you can. And if you do it well, you see a great year. If you miss some pieces, sometimes you're going to struggle. But I think we all got to find a way to get comfortable in that.
Andrew Heidigan, you mentioned all those NIL deals and how much that's changed things. So what does it mean to have a team like this where virtually everybody's staying put compared to last year where everybody left? What kind of confidence does that give you going forward in these guys?
Well, a ton of I appreciate these guys. They're not getting rich. We have a handful of guys getting money through the collective. It is far from fully funded. It is far from where it needs to be truly competitive in our league. Number one, our league is serious. The teams at the top of our league collectively, just in terms of NIL collective, are in a very serious place. We have a long way to go to get there, but we did do enough, and I appreciate the people that helped enough to at least help these guys not have to leave. The numbers are not even close. You have to understand these guys that chose to stay here turned down 6-figure plus type opportunities to stay here for way, way less than that. But they didn't really want to leave. They love the culture. They love the Valley. They want to be Aggies. And so, it was really more just, we're going to try to help. Make sure that you can, if you need to fly home, you can. If you need some food, you can. If you need a little gas money, you can. We're in a different world, but it was a good first step. And I appreciate that they did stay. I appreciate the people that did help. This is a good first step. This is not a finished product. We still have a long way to go. And our league is only going to get stronger and more difficult to compete in. I think this is a great first step towards that.
Hey, Coach Eric Franson with 106.9 The Fan. Could you comment about Spencer Petras and just bringing another experienced quarterback into the mix with your quarterback room that already has experience?
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to elevate every room on the roster. I want to make every position competitive. I think competition makes everybody better. And I don't think quarterback is any different. Matter of fact, it's the most important position on the field. It just is. They're all important, but if you don't have a quarterback, you have no chance. If you struggle at quarterback, you're going to see it in wins and losses. And so, we found Spencer early in the process. I think us playing those guys and him seeing our offense up close and personal had a big impact on his willingness to look at us and really his interest in us. We felt like that a guy that had played that many snaps at that high a level was somebody we absolutely had to look into. But the stats are a little bit misleading. I think you had to look beyond the stats, find out who the person was, what coaches and teammates and people that have trained him say about him on a daily basis, all the way back to watching how he carried himself in high school. And we felt like that he makes the room better. He was not promised anything other than an opportunity to compete for the job. He knew Coop was going to potentially be here. He didn't, we had no way to know if Coop was going to stay or go. He had to assume that he was going to be competing with another senior, as did Coop understand that Spencer had committed to come and that by him staying, he was going to be competing against another senior. And to me, both of those guys choosing that eyes wide open makes the room better. And as I said earlier, you can't count McKay out of the mix. We saw at times this year where he played at an extremely high level and has all the skill set to help lead us to win. So I love where we're headed. I think Spence brings maturity, experience, a huge arm, decision-making, all that he's done in extremely difficult situations there at Iowa. And either he's going to win the job and make us better, or he's going to make Coop better. And when Coop wins a job, that improved our football team as well. Or who knows where McKay fits in all this too. Maybe he wins it and he exceeds both those guys. But it was all about making our football team better and creating as much competition and as many answers in the room as we could. And clearly we think he does that.
Andrew Hyde again. You mentioned NIL quite a bit, and you talked about the collective as well. I think that's still relatively unknown, especially to a lot of people in Cache Valley. Could you just talk a little bit about what the collective is and what people in Cache Valley could do if they wanted to support and contribute to that?
Yeah, I mean, the Blue A Collective is the one that we are connected with. I don't know that there are any other entities out there now that are in that space for us and in the Valley. The people that handle that, Eric Lobb and Gary Anderson, are on the front end of that. We are connected through a charity organization as well. So those that want to give do have the opportunity to do that with a tax deduction, and it obviously helps the charity that they are partnered with. I think Special Forces is the name of that, and they help underprivileged and handicapped kids, which is awesome. And our kids give a bunch of time and energy back to all those areas, but also it has a chance to step into the NIL space too. So we're a long ways away from where we need to be. We have a good small foundation that got us started, but we have a ton of room to make up. There are teams in our league that are well above the $1.5 million mark in terms of what they contribute to their collective on a yearly basis. We've already seen the running back at Boise. It was posted out that he's making $300,000-$400,000 to stay put for another year. We're not in that space yet. I don't know that we'll ever go dollar for dollar for teams in our league, but we do. If we want to retain our rosters in football and basketball, especially, it is a place we have to realize that this is a competitive world of college sports, and that these guys are going to have significant opportunities financially, and to choose to stay and finish with us, we at least have to bridge the gap. And so I would just encourage people, if they're passionate about football and basketball in the Valley at Utah State, this is an area we have to continue to address. We're not there, but we do have a good start, and there's a ton of information online that they can plug into and find ways to be a part of that.
Coach Anderson, Jason from the Herald Journal. I just wanted to ask you about your two in-state kids, Grayson and Tate, both guys that played for two of the best programs in the state of Utah. Multi-sport guys were dynamic playmakers this year. How confident are you that those guys are going to go in and immediately maybe have a chance to immediately compete for playing time?
Yeah, I mean, they're no-brainers for us. We had zero issues with offers and wanting those guys to commit. We saw them both in person multiple times, both at camps and playing games. Love the fact that Grayson is a basketball guy too. We'll always like our skill guys to have played basketball if possible. Just the ball skills and playing above the rim and body awareness is huge. And I mean, how do you watch Corner Canyon play without watching Tate just blow it up? I mean, every time you turn around, he's making a huge play. He had great camps with us. We love the family and just what he comes from and how he's been trained and the kind of kid he is. Easy decisions for us. Great additions. I don't know how early either one will play. I mean, I always expect that it'll take freshmen a little while, but you're always surprised too. So that'll be up to them. They're both capable, there's no doubt, and skill sets match and fit what we do. So we're excited about both.
Hey, Coach Eric Frandsen, once again, there's a great tradition at Utah State with brothers playing together. You got several siblings on this year's squad, and you've added a few more. What is that like for you as a coach to have siblings on your roster?
I think it's pretty cool. It's not one of those things that you just assume is going to happen. So to be in a position where we have several, to be adding a couple more, I just think it's a super cool thing. I have family is huge to me. I've got one older brother that I love to death, and I just think about that opportunity would have been an amazing experience. And so hopefully these guys will make some memories and really not take that for granted. It's just not something that at this level is a given or always available. The good thing is we think all those guys make us better. So as much as I like that they're getting to play with their brothers, more importantly, I feel like they can come in and compete and make our football team better. And that ultimately was the overriding factor, just what Trey and both George can bring to the table on that front and how they can come in and really make guys work and potentially be contributors immediately. That's huge. And we had to get better up there. I think as everybody knows, the O-line and D-line are the places we had to make the biggest impact.
Hey, Coach Al, again, I apologize. It's not a recruiting question, but I haven't had you talk about playing Utah next year in football, that announcement. What about that?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a huge challenge. Our schedule got way tougher real quick. With the absence of BYU, we all knew that there were going to be some holes to fill. There are limited options available to us. This is one that Diana brought to my attention about a month or so ago, that it was possible and not just a 1-game deal, but a 2-for-1. Strategically for us, makes our schedule even that more difficult. Love it for the fans, like it way more for them than I do for me, but that's a tough win. And wins are really what matters. But I know there'll be a big chip on our guys' shoulder when they play them. They'll have to come to us, which is super unique. And I think something that has been talked about for a long, long time. I expect it to be sold out, standing room only very early in the process, because we're going to need all the help we can get to find a way to beat those guys.